The night was darker than usual, the kind of darkness that seemed to swallow everything it touched. The forest behind the small village of Greenwood echoed with the cries of wild creatures searching for food. In a small wooden house near the edge of the forest, a mother lay asleep beside her newborn twins, unaware that danger was creeping closer. The only one awake was a loyal German shepherd named Rex, lying quietly by the door, his sharp ears twitching at every sound. Suddenly, Rex's head lifted. A faint rustle outside made his heart race. His instinct screamed that something was wrong. Through the window, the moonlight revealed glowing eyes moving closer. A pack of wild wolves had ventured out of the forest, drawn by the scent of the babies inside. Rex stood up, his muscles tense, his tail stiff with alertness. The wolves were hungry, desperate, and fearless, but Rex was not going to let them harm his family. Without a second thought, he ran to the mother's bed and barked loudly, trying to wake her. She stirred for a moment, but, exhausted from days without sleep, she barely opened her eyes. The wolves were now at the door, their growls vibrating through the night. Rex turned back toward the sound, his heart pounding. He knew what he had to do. He pushed his body against the wooden door, growling fiercely, warning the intruders to stay away. But the wolves were many, and soon one of them leapt at the window, shattering the glass with a snarl. The babies began to cry, their tiny voices piercing the silence. The mother finally woke up, her eyes widening in horror as she saw the shadows moving outside. She screamed for help, but the nearest house was too far away. Rex barked louder, circling the room, then darted out through the broken door. The cold wind hit his face, and in the moonlight he saw 4 wolves approaching. His fur bristled as he lunged forward, teeth bared, his growls echoing through the night. The first wolf attacked, but Rex bit hard into its shoulder, forcing it to retreat. Another came from the side, but Rex spun quickly, slashing at it with his teeth. The fight was brutal. Rex was outnumbered, his body trembling from pain as claws and teeth tore through his fur. But he didn't stop. Every time he fell, he rose again, because behind that door, 2 innocent lives depended on him. His love for those babies was stronger than any fear. Inside the house, the mother cried as she heard the growls and yelps outside. She clutched her babies close, whispering prayers, hoping that her brave guardian would survive. The battle went on for what felt like forever, until the first light of dawn began to appear. The wolves, wounded and frightened by the coming daylight, finally retreated into the forest, leaving behind a trail of blood and silence. The mother rushed outside, her heart breaking as she saw Rex lying still on the ground. His fur was torn, his breath weak, but when she called his name, his tail moved just once. She knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face, whispering words of gratitude and love. Rex had saved her children. He had faced death without hesitation, protecting them as if they were his own. Villagers soon arrived, shocked by what had happened. They carried Rex to the local vet, where he was treated for his wounds. For days, he lay motionless, fighting to stay alive. The babies would not stop crying until they heard his familiar bark again. And then one morning, when the sun rose over Greenwood, Rex opened his eyes. His body was weak, but his spirit was unbroken. Months later, the twins began to crawl, often reaching out to play with Rex, who watched them with gentle eyes. He limped now, a scar across his leg, but he never left their side. Wherever they went, he followed, a silent guardian, a living reminder of courage and love. As years passed, the story of Rex spread through the village and beyond. People spoke of him not just as a dog, but as a hero, a symbol of loyalty that asked for nothing in return. And on quiet nights, when the forest whispered again, Rex would sit by the door, gazing into the darkness, ready to protect his family once more. Because real heroes don't. The years rolled by, and the small village of Greenwood changed with time. New houses were built, children grew up, and life became peaceful again. But one thing remained the same. Rex, the brave German shepherd, still guarded the family he nearly died to protect. Though his fur had turned gray and his steps had slowed, his eyes still carried that same fire, the look of a protector who had already faced death and won. The twins, now 7 years old, adored Rex more than anyone. They called him a hero. Every morning they would feed him before school, and every night they would sleep only after saying goodnight to him. Rex would rest beside their door, his head on his paws, listening to their laughter until they drifted off to sleep. But one evening, as the sky turned crimson and the wind carried whispers from the forest, Rex's ears perked up once again. He hadn't heard that sound in years. the deep growl of wild animals. The forest had been quiet since that night long ago, but now it was alive again with danger. The villagers had warned that a new pack of wild boars had been spotted, destroying farms, attacking livestock, and even threatening people. Rex stood up slowly, pain shooting through his old legs. The mother, now older and wiser, noticed his tense posture and followed his gaze toward the trees. Fear filled her heart again. She hurried to lock the doors and windows while calling the twins inside. But Rex didn't move back. His instincts told him that the danger was closer than anyone thought. Suddenly, the screams of animals echoed from the nearby farm. The boars had come. The villagers grabbed sticks and torches, running toward the sound, shouting for help. Rex barked loudly, pacing by the gate, restless and alert. The twins held on to him, scared. The mother begged him to stay, tears in her eyes. "Rex, please, you're old now, but love doesn't listen to fear." Rex licked her hand softly as if to say goodbye and broke free, running toward the chaos. His legs were weak, but his heart was unstoppable. When he reached the farm, the scene was horrifying. 2 wild boars were charging at a group of children trapped near a fence. The villagers shouted but were too far to reach them in time. Without hesitation, Rex leapt forward, barking with all the strength left in him. The boars turned toward him, snorting angrily, preparing to attack. Rex lunged first, biting into one's ear, forcing it away from the children. The other boar rammed into him with its tusks, knocking him down, but he rose again, limping, growling, refusing to back away. The children escaped, crying out for help, while Rex stood between them and the beasts. The villagers finally arrived, waving torches and shouting, driving the boars back into the forest. When the danger passed, they found Rex lying on the ground, breathing heavily, blood staining his fur. The mother and twins ran to him, their cries echoing through the night. The twins clung to him, their tears falling onto his face. Rex lifted his head weakly, his eyes meeting theirs, calm, proud, and full of love. The vet tried everything to save him, but this time Rex was too tired. He had given his life once again to protect the innocent. As the sun rose over Greenwood, Rex took his final breath in the arms of the family he had devoted his life to. The village buried him beneath the old oak tree near the house, the same tree where the twins used to play beside him. They placed a stone with the words, "A Rex, the heart of courage." He lived not for himself, but for love. Years later, the twins grew up and moved to the city, but every year they returned to Greenwood to visit Rex's resting place. They would bring flowers, sit quietly, and tell stories of his bravery to their own children, so that no one would ever forget the dog who fought death twice for love. And on silent nights, when the wind rustled through the trees, villagers swore they could still hear the faint bark of a loyal guardian watching over them, the spirit of Rex, forever guarding the ones he loved, because some heroes never truly die. Years passed since the day Rex took his final breath beneath the old oak tree. The twins, now grown into kind and courageous young adults, carried his memory everywhere they went. The boy, Aram, had joined the forest rescue team, while his sister, Alina, worked as a wildlife caretaker, both inspired by the bravery of their childhood protector. But destiny has a strange way of repeating its stories. One stormy night, when rain poured like a river from the sky, Aram received a call. A mother wolf had been found injured near the edge of the forest, and her cubs were missing. Without hesitation, he grabbed his jacket and rushed out, memories of Rex flashing in his mind. He knew he couldn't ignore a cry for help, not when his hero had once fought for him. As he reached the forest, the wind howled through the trees. The scent of wet earth filled the air, and lightning flashed across the sky. The rescue team struggled through the mud, searching for signs of life. Then faintly Aram heard it, a whimper, soft but desperate. He followed the sound until he found a small den, half flooded by rainwater. Inside, 2 tiny wolf pups trembled, their eyes wide with fear. Aram's heart softened. Carefully, he reached out and wrapped them in his jacket. But as he turned to leave, a loud growl echoed from behind. The missing mother wolf had returned, limping and bleeding, misunderstanding his intentions. Her eyes burned with fury and fear. She thought he was taking her babies away. The team shouted from a distance, warning him to step back, but Aram raised his hand and whispered gently, "I'm not here to hurt them. I'm here to help." For a long moment, the mother wolf stood still, her growl deep and uncertain. Then, as lightning illuminated Aram's face, Something in his eyes made her hesitate. That same calm, fearless light that Rex once had. Slowly, she lowered her head, watching as Aram set the pups down near her. He stepped back quietly, letting her reunite with them. When she licked her cubs and turned to look at him again, it felt as if two souls, the spirit of the wild and the heart of courage, had recognized each other. Back in the village, Alina was waiting anxiously. When Aram returned, soaked and exhausted, she ran to hug him. "You're just like him," she whispered. "Just like Rex." Aram smiled faintly. "Oh no," he said, looking out toward the forest. "He's still out there. Maybe he was the reason I found them." That night, as the storm faded, Alina dreamed she was standing under the old oak tree. The wind was gentle, and in the distance she saw a familiar figure. Rex, his fur glowing softly, his tail wagging as if in peace. He turned and walked toward the forest, where the mother wolf and her cubs waited. And just before he vanished into the trees, he looked back at her, as if to say, "My work is done. Yours begins." The next morning, the twins visited Rex's grave again, this time with new flowers, wild daisies and forest lilies. Aram knelt down, touching the stone with quiet reverence. "You taught us that courage never dies," he whispered. "It just passes on." From that day forward, they made it their life's mission to rescue and protect helpless animals, building a small shelter in Rex's name, the Heart of Courage Sanctuary. People from far and wide came to hear the story of the dog who saved babies, fought wild beasts, and whose bravery sparked a legacy of love and compassion. And sometimes on calm nights when the wind rustled softly through the trees, Aram and Alina swore they could hear a faint bark echoing through the forest, a sound that felt like home, like love, like Rex, because heroes never truly leave us. They live forever, in the choices we make and in the love they leave behind. 10 more years passed, and the Heart of Courage Sanctuary had grown beyond anyone's dreams. What had started as a humble shelter in honor of a brave dog had now become a haven for hundreds of lost, abandoned, and wounded animals. Aram and Alina were no longer just the twins who had once been saved. They were guardians, teachers, and symbols of compassion across the region. But deep inside there was still something missing, a quiet ache that both siblings felt but never spoke of. Rex's memory lived in every wall, every rescued life, every heartbeat of the sanctuary. Yet sometimes at night, Aram would still walk out to the old oak tree and whisper, "I wish you could see this, old friend. You started all of it." One crisp autumn morning, the sound of barking echoed across the field. Alina turned toward the entrance where a small, dirty puppy was limping in through the gate. Its fur was matted, its eyes full of fear. Yet something about it felt strangely familiar. When it saw Alina, the pup stopped and wagged its tail weakly before collapsing. They rushed the little one to the infirmary. The vet said it had survived something terrible, wild animal bites and deep scars, just like Rex once had. For days, the pup fought for its life. Alina stayed beside it, whispering softly, "You're safe now. You're home." When the puppy finally opened its eyes again, Aram froze. There in those golden brown eyes, he saw a spark he hadn't seen in years, that same fearless glow that had once belonged to Rex. It was uncanny. The way it looked at him, the way it lifted its head despite its pain, everything felt like destiny repeating itself. They named him Spirit. Spirit grew quickly strong and loyal, following Aram everywhere, just like Rex had once done. But unlike most dogs, Spirit had an uncanny sense for danger. He would bark long before storms came or before frightened animals reached the gate. It was as if he could feel fear before it appeared. One night, a wildfire broke out deep in the forest. Flames spread fast, and the rescue team had to move quickly to save the trapped animals. Smoke filled the air and chaos erupted. Aram and his team loaded as many animals as they could onto trucks, but a small group of deer was still trapped near the hill's edge. Before anyone could act, Spirit broke free from his leash and sprinted toward the burning trees. Aram shouted after him, but the sound was lost in the roar of the fire. Without thinking, Aram grabbed his mask and followed. Through the smoke and heat, he could hear Spirit barking, guiding the frightened deer toward safety. When the last deer stumbled out of the fire line, Aram spotted Spirit limping back toward him, fur singed and eyes red from smoke. Aram ran and scooped him up, coughing, tears streaming down his face. "You did it, boy. You saved them," he whispered, his voice breaking. When the fire was finally under control, the team returned to the sanctuary. Spirit lay resting, surrounded by the animals he had saved. Helena placed her hand on his head and smiled through tears. "He's just like Rex," she whispered. No, maybe he is Rex." Aram nodded slowly. Maybe some souls never really leave," he said softly. "They just come back when love calls them." As the years went on, Spirit became the heart of the sanctuary, just as Rex once was. Visitors often said there was something extraordinary about him. A calm strength, a look that seemed to understand every emotion. And under the shade of the same old oak tree, the twins built a stone path connecting both graves, one for Rex, one for Spirit, side by side. One evening, as the sun set behind the forest, Alina stood there, watching the golden light reflect on both stones. The wind rustled through the leaves, and for a moment she could swear she heard two faint barks, one old, one young, echoing in harmony across the fields. And she smiled, whispering, "You never left us, you just found your way back." Because true love, the kind born from courage, loyalty, and sacrifice, doesn't end with death. It simply finds a new way to keep living.